I want to tell you a story today, one that you're definitely not going to find in any history book. It's about a mother who had everything taken from her and how she orchestrated one of the most patient, calculated, and devastating acts of revenge you can possibly imagine, all to get back what was stolen.
So let's start with a number, $1,000. Back in 1855 in Mississippi, that was the size of a gambling debt, and to pay it off, a man sold 3 children. And here's the part that's just a gut punch. The man who sold them, he was a white plantation owner named Thomas Whitmore. And he wasn't just their owner, he was their father. He sold his own flesh and blood to save himself from going broke.
But you see, here's the thing Whitmore couldn't possibly have seen coming. The enslaved woman he had brutalized for years, the mother of the very children he just sold off, well, she was about to become the architect of his total and complete destruction. Her name was Celeste.
Okay, so let's just step into this world for a second. We're talking about Antebellum, Mississippi, a place built on cotton and just unimaginable cruelty. And that's where we meet this guy, Thomas Whitmore, a man who is desperate to look like he's on top of the world, all while he is secretly drowning in debt.
And this really shows you the two completely different realities, existing literally yards apart. On one side, you've got Whitmore Hall, this grand mansion, a symbol of power that's built on a mountain of lies. And then, right there, you have the slave quarters, rough wooden cabins where Celeste and her 3 children, Samuel, Eliza, and Isaiah, lived a life where he held all the power and they had none.
And this timeline, it just charts a life of relentless horror. From the moment Celeste gets there as a teenager, she is systematically abused by Whitmore. But out of that nightmare, she built a family. Her 3 children were the only thing in this whole world that was hers. And then came that morning in 1855.
So this is the moment, the point of no return. The children are literally torn away from her, screaming her name as they're dragged into a wagon. And Whitmore? He just stands there and watches, a blank expression on his face as his own kids are taken away to be sold to whoever, wherever, across 3 different states.
But this is where the story pivots. In that moment of just absolute loss, Celeste's fear and her grief, they don't break her. No, they harden. They forge themselves into something else, a cold, patient, methodical resolve. She made a silent promise to herself. She would destroy him. She would take everything he had, and then she would find her children. Now, Celeste knew she couldn't fight him with brute force, right? She had no money, no rights, no power. But she realized there was another kind of power she could get, the power of information. And to get that, she had to learn the one thing that was absolutely forbidden to her, how to read. Her strategy was nothing short of brilliant. First, she just started to observe. She turned her work in the main house into an intelligence-gathering mission. Then, she took a huge risk to learn. She secretly met with an older man, Solomon, who taught her to read. And that unlocked the final step, to discover, to read the secrets Whitmore thought were safely locked away in his own office. So for 2 years, think about that, 2 long years, she's in the shadows, listening, learning, piecing together the truth about his finances. But she knew debt alone wasn't enough. No, she needed something that would ruin him completely, something personal. And then, in 1857, she found it. This right here, this is the smoking gun. It's from a letter she found that Whitmore had written to an old buddy years earlier. And in it, he was actually bragging about his kids with Celeste, making these awful jokes about his shadow family. He confirmed in his own handwriting that they were his children. This wasn't just a secret, it was a signed confession. That letter was the bombshell for sure, but Celeste, she was meticulous. She didn't just stop there. She built an entire case. She found his wife Margaret's diary, and it was filled with entries about her suspicions. She had kept locks of her own children's hair. She even had a small wooden toy Whitmore had once carved for his son. Each piece by itself was maybe small, but together, it was an undeniable arsenal of truth. So, okay, you have this arsenal of evidence. Now what? How do you actually use it without getting yourself killed? Well, Celeste found the perfect way. She used James Crawford, the very man Whitmore sold her children to pay off. Crawford was a rival who hated Whitmore, and he immediately saw the value in what Celeste had. She gave him the proof, and he made sure it got into the right hands. And just look at how fast the whole house of cards came tumbling down. The collapse was total, and it was swift. First, the men who bought his children started suing him for fraud, for selling them mixed-race children. Then the other lawsuits started piling up. His wife, completely humiliated in public, had a total breakdown. And in less than a year, everything he had was gone, sold at auction.
And this was the final value of the Whitmore estate after the dust settled. 0. Nothing. Celeste hadn't just beaten him, she had erased him. Financially, socially, his ruin was absolute.
But you have to remember, destroying Whitmore, that was never the end goal. It was just the means to an end. Her real mission, the promise she made to herself on that horrible day, was really just getting started.
So Celeste played one last brilliant card. Before the action, she went to Crawford and made him a deal. She'd give him more information, act as an informant for him, in exchange for one thing, her freedom. He agreed. He bought her for $350 and immediately signed the manumission papers. At 36 years old, Celeste was a free woman.
And this chart, this just shows the impossible journey she went on next. A free woman? Yeah, but in the middle of the hostile South. She spent years traveling, working any job she could, saving every single penny. She found Samuel and bought him back in Alabama. She found Eliza and bought her back in New Orleans. And finally, in 1863, she found her youngest, Isaiah, on a horrible sugar plantation in Louisiana and got him freed with the help of Union officers.
And what about Thomas Whitmore? Well, he died a penniless alcoholic, totally forgotten. While Celeste was literally rebuilding the family he had tried to destroy, his own story just fizzled out. It ended.
Celeste lived for another 30 years, and she was surrounded by her children and her grandchildren. When she died, this was the simple, powerful line she wanted on her gravestone. It wasn't about the revenge, not really. In the end, it was only about the mission. It's a testament to a mother's love so powerful, it literally bent history to its will. She found her children.